In Chapter 7, the three operations that we did were to polynomials were add, subtract, and multiply. And there's a reason that we left divide off, because we needed to have more understanding about polynomials before we could touch division. So to divide a polynomial by a monomial, you divide each term of the polynomial by the monomial. So you take your polynomial, 3x squared plus x minus 6, and you divide each term by 3x. And then you write down what you get. So when you divide the first piece, you get x. When you divide the second piece, you'll get 1/3. And then when you divide the third piece, you get 2 over x. Not really pretty looking, but that's what it is. Now, when you want to divide by something bigger than a monomial, you use good old-fashioned long division. No joke. So if you don't remember long division, pause the video now, go learn it, and then come back, because there's no way. You got to know long division. So you take your polynomial, m squared, plus 4m plus 3. Well, I should lower that a little. And you divide it by m plus 1. So just like long division, you say, how many times is m go into m squared? How many times does it go into 4m? How many times does it go into 3? But you just pay attention to this first term. You're not doing the whole m plus 1. You're just looking at m. So how many times does m go into m squared? Meaning m times what is m squared? Well, m times m is m squared. So you get, so when you multiply, like you would normally do, m times m plus 1 gives you m squared plus m. And then you subtract. Be careful when you subtract. 4m minus 1m is 3m. And then you bring down the plus 3. So now you do that all over again. M goes into 3m how many times? Meaning m times what is 3m? Well, m times positive 3 is 3m. So 3 times m is 3m. 3 times 1 is 3. When you subtract, everything cancels and you're just left with 0. So that means that there's no remainder. So the final answer is m plus 3. That's what you get when you divide them. Now, if there's no remainder, then technically you could have factored the binomial into the trinomial, meaning that this right here is factorable by m plus 1. But if you don't see it, then this is the technique. So let's look at long division. How did you do 10 divided by 3? Well, you'd say 3 goes into 10 3 times, minus 9 is 1. And then you could add a 0.0 and keep going. But what I want us to do now, and I don't know if you did this back in the day, but you bring the 1 up and you divide it by 3 because that was what was being the divisor. So the answer was 3 1/3, and we did that by turning the remainder into a fraction. So let's look at what happens when you have a polynomial that has a remainder. Okay, first thing is I'm going to write that trinomial in standard form. So I'm just going to rewrite it, y squared minus 7y plus 2 divided by y minus 3. So same rules apply. Y goes into y squared how many times? Y times what is y squared? Well, that's y. So y times y is y squared. Y times minus 3 is minus 3y. Be careful when you subtract. Negative 7 minus negative 3 is negative 4. and then bring down the y and then plus 2. So you do it all over again. Y times what is negative 4? Well, y times minus 4. So now you multiply. Negative 4 times y is negative 4y. Negative 4 times negative 3 is plus 12. Subtract, and be careful when you subtract. These cancel. 2 minus 12 is negative 10. So that's the remainder. So we're going to bring it up, and I'm just going to write it out because I'm running out of, I can scroll down, there we go. So we have y minus 4 plus negative 10 over y minus 3. This is the same thing that we did in that earlier question, 10 divided by 3. Only now it's with polynomials. So the answer to this, I'm just going to write it separately. Y minus 4 plus negative 10 over y minus 3. Looks crazy, but that's what it is. All right, let's check out another one. I'm going to write it the 3q squared. Now, there's really a term between the q squared and the 8, right? Normally we would have a q. So I'm going to write plus 0q just as like a placeholder. So that way it's in standard form, and then q minus 2. So now we go and divide. If you want to pause the video and divide this on your own, give it a shot. If not, do it with me. So this gives you 3q. 3q times q is 3q squared. 3q times negative 2 is negative 6q. When you subtract, 0 minus negative 6 is positive 6q. Bring down the minus 8. Q goes into 6q 6 times, so that's going to be plus 6. 6 times q is 6q. 6 times negative 2 is negative 12. These cancel. Negative 8 minus negative 12 is positive 4. So when I bring that up, I get plus 4 over q minus 2. I'm just going to write the answer separately. 3q plus 6 plus 4 over q minus 2. If you have any questions, write them down and ask me when you see me next.